Okay, so hello, I'm Michael Grinshpun, and this is my Keystone thesis project, measuring and addressing affordability of water and sewer in the United States. So why are we talking about water and sewer? First, this project aimed to blend my research as a research assistant on the water team at the Institute for Sustainable Energy and my academic curriculum in economics and the Kilachand Honors College. Second, water and sewer are crucial services in modern society. In fact, the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals, one of them is to achieve universal and equitable access to safe and affordable drinking water and sanitation for all by 2030. This goal has been in the working for 200 years after infectious diseases ravaged London and the United Kingdom in the mid-18th century, which prompted the sanitary movement. The sanitary movement advocated for town governments to provide clean water, drainage, and sewage services to every household. And ultimately it was successful. Today, water and sewer are especially relevant to public health in the face of the coronavirus pandemic. If I were to tell you that water and sewer costs rise as fast or faster than other essential costs like rent, medical care, or college costs, that might be surprising to you, but that is exactly the reality that we find ourselves in. In this graph, from top to bottom, you could see college costs outpacing water and sewer costs, medical care, shelter, and the bottom 60% of incomes over the last 50 years. When looking at just the last 10 years, though, water and sewer costs actually grew the fastest, averaging nearly 5% growth per year, while household incomes grew only around 2.5% per year. When water and sewer costs rise faster than people's incomes over a long period of time, they become less and less affordable, even if they aren't a large portion of your overall expenses. As water and sewer costs rise and become unaffordable for large portions of the population, people are priced out. People who can't afford water and sewer services might get a lien on their house, which could conceivably lead to their home being sold at auction without their consent, or the home's water and sewer services could potentially be shut off. Food and Water Watch estimates that 500,000 households had their water shut off in 2016, affecting 1.4 million people. The main reasons for rising costs of water and sewer are aging infrastructure that needs to be replaced and maintained, more extreme weather and storms, declining federal funding, and fluctuating populations. Despite this rapid rise in costs, water and sewer costs do not have a federal or state affordability program. Meanwhile, other fast rising costs like housing, medical care, college costs, and even electricity have federal affordability programs. One possible reason for this discrepancy might be a poor measurement of the affordability problem. So my thesis seeks to find more comprehensive ways to measure the water and sewer affordability problem and recommends some solution. My analysis, in line with numerous other literature, has found that the current metrics for affordability are inadequate. The EPA has a metric that dictates that water service charges above 2% of the median household income and sewer charges above 2.5% of the median household income in a particular area are unaffordable. The graph on the right shows that one issue with this metric. The graph illustrates an income distribution for 11 hypothetical households, shown across the bottom, with a higher bar indicating a higher income and the yellow portion of the bar representing a portion of the income spent on water and sewer costs. The EPA metric determines the affordability of water and sewer costs for the whole community by focusing on whether the charges exceed a certain percentage of just the median household, which is highlighted in red in this 11 household distribution. So by definition, this metric misses the lowest income households. Moreover, 2% for water costs and 2.5% for sewer costs are entirely arbitrary cutoffs. Only about 2% of water utilities and 8% of sewer utilities charge unaffordable rates by this metric, while an estimated 500,000 households lost their water or sewer connection in 2016. Clearly, it is a poor metric, and so many alternatives have been proposed, but not yet adopted. Alternative metrics might take averages across the whole income distribution, or focus on the 20th percentile household instead of the median, or they measure how many hours of minimum wage work will pay the monthly bill. I believe all of these metrics do not capture the whole picture and have developed my own that are designed to give a more comprehensive overview of affordability problems for households in a community. So my proposed metric starts from first principles and looks at the entire income distribution. How does one measure an affordability problem in a community? Well, there are two dimensions to answering this question. One dimension is how many people might be struggling to afford their bill, or the prevalence of the affordability issue. And the other dimension is just how much do these people struggle to afford these bills, or the intensity of the affordability issue. My pair of metrics seeks to measure these two dimensions of the affordability problem. So instead of looking at just the median household, I propose looking at how many households in the whole income distribution spend more than 4.5% of their incomes on water plus sewer costs to measure the prevalence of the affordability issue. In the case illustrated on the graph on the right, the prevalence of the affordability issue spans the 3 households highlighted in red. This metric focuses on the lowest incomes, which are the most vulnerable to affordability issues. The other proposed metric determines what percent of the 20th percentile household income is spent on water and sewer costs in order to measure the intensity of affordability issues. In this illustration, darker red represents more intense affordability issues, and we are looking at the second household that represents the 20th percentile. So together, these metrics can measure what percent of households struggle with affordability and how intensely they struggle. Next, to promote better measurement of affordability of water and sewer services, I created an Excel tool to be used by decision makers to determine the affordability of their rates through a garden variety of metrics, with my proposed metrics emphasized. These are the steps on the inputs page of the Excel tool, where the first step would be to enter in utility and local data, such as local minimum wage and the water and sewer charges. Next, the tool provides instructions on how to retrieve and asks for the entry of data from the US Census about income distribution, poverty, and government benefits. Finally, the tool asks for cost of rent data from the Department of Housing and Urban Development and cost of living data from MIT's Living Wage Calculator. This is the outputs page of my Excel tool, where the most prominent displays are on the left. First, we have the illustration of what percentage of the income distribution spends more than 4.5% of their income on water and sewer, one of my proposed metrics. Below that on the left, we have data on what percentile the water and sewer charges fall in, based on a database of a couple thousand water and sewer utilities. To the right of that, we have the water unaffordability intensity metric, my other proposed metric. Finally, on the right, we have a garden variety of other calculated affordability metrics and socioeconomic metrics that are benchmarked against the largest 25 cities in the United States, which contain around 11% of the population. Next, we will cover the current state of affairs of affordability strategies before we discuss the future. Since there is no federal or state policy assistance for struggling utility customers, the utilities must try to fulfill that role themselves. As you can see from the American Water Works Association survey table on the bottom, a majority of the utilities do not offer customer assistance, especially smaller utilities. The utilities that do have programs primarily focus on those with disabilities and seniors rather than low incomes. And a hallmark of these programs is exclusion of renters and low participation among those who are eligible. Currently, the most praised program is Philadelphia's income-based tiered assistance program that provides different levels of discounts to those at certain multiples of the poverty rate, and it also has provisions for renters. As for programs on the state and federal level, California is currently attempting to develop a statewide program, and the US Congress recently considered water bill aid as part of the coronavirus relief bill, but it ultimately did not pass. Finally, here are my recommendations for how different stakeholders can tackle water and sewer affordability. Water and sewer utilities should take interest in addressing affordability because they can in fact increase their revenue collection rates through conscientious rate making with an inclining block structure, which is a way of prioritizing universal affordability over targeted programs. So what does that mean? This means that they set their water and sewer rate charges without unreasonably high fixed charges and set relatively low variable charges for the first several units of water and sewer usage, and making up for it with progressively higher charges for additional units of usage. Meanwhile, state governments should consider the prohibition of water and sewer shutoffs and home liens. They should also condition state funding for infrastructure projects on affordable rates and provide additional assistance to fill the gaps for those with the lowest incomes. Finally, federal governments can collect better data on water and sewer costs, also condition federal funding for infrastructure projects on affordable rates, and give automatic monthly payments for the lowest incomes to make water and sewer services affordable. So the key takeaways of my Keystone thesis are several tools to tackle water and sewer affordability, namely a more comprehensive pair of affordability metrics, an Excel tool for measurement, and policy recommendations. Thank you for watching my presentation, and I would also like to thank Jackie Ashmore, Kilachand Honors College, and the BU Institute for Sustainable Energy for their roles in supporting my research.